Hello, welcome to Elementally Human. I'm Hamish McPharlin, your host, and it's a real pleasure today to talk to Chris J. Smith. He is the talent director, head of agency and partnerships for the Gold Studios. This is a talent-led agency. They call themselves the home of digital comedy and entertainment. How are you doing there, Chris?
Really good, man. Good to be here. In sunny London for once, but yeah, very happy to be here, dude.
In the shadow of Cannes, Chris.
Yeah, I know. God, this is like a warm-up towards our tans we'll be getting on the beach drinking some wine. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well.
It's actually a really good thing that we're talking only days out of Cannes, because Cannes is where we first met, Chris. We were bumped into each other last year at Cannes. One thing that struck me, which has been striking me every time I've bumped into you ever since, is you wear a killer suit, man. What's the story there?
Always. I'm a bit old school like that. I don't know, maybe it's because of the family background I came from finance and like construction, contracting work and winning on deals. But I just like doing it because it's a bit different. Like the career economy, not a lot of people wear suits. So I thought, let's stand out. And I'm glad it's noticed by yourself a lot. And I appreciate that.
Dude, we work in media. It's a cold day in hell when we reach in the back of the cupboard and pull out a tie. So you are living brand distinctiveness, and I love it.
Oh, I appreciate that. Got to do it for a reason, and there's always thought to these things. Always.
True. Well, it's good to have you on and to talk about marketing and content, because some of the things that you've been working on at Gold Studios has really caught my interest. Before we dive in, I would love to just get started with a quick run through, a bit of a walkthrough for the audience on what is it that Gold Studios does. What can you tell us?
Yeah, of course. I think it's always good to start with like why we do things. It's very easy to say what we do, but also starting with why. We realized that from the start of this company 4 and a bit years ago that the world of social and digital, like we're bringing on the new comedians, the new entertainers of the world. You know that, everyone at Cannes knows that, everyone in the world knows that, and we're just screaming it. And we realized that there needs to be a place like a home for these people where we can help them grow, do this for a long period of time, because being a content creator is not easy. If it was easy, Hamish, we wouldn't be sitting on call and doing this. We'd be out doing amazing content. Let's be honest, we'd be in Cannes filming, saying this is what we're doing. So we were like, how can we be the home of digital comedy entertainment? And we have like these 3 pillars, which is live booking for digital comedians who are coming up or ones who are established and booking their live tours in the US. We have this production side of the company, which is essentially building YouTube channels for brands and talent. That talent can be internal, external. And of course, we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. But in the part of the agency that kind of everything feeds in and out of is the agency. And that's essentially representing 300 plus creators, all exclusive in the US and UK. 50-50 split, I'd say it's more 60-40 to the US. And our role is getting them working with main brands as possible. Find new things we can do with them, whether that's on the stage or in production. As I said, it kind of feeds in and out of each other. So our roster's funny people. It could be tech, but they deliver it in a funny entertainment way. It could be sketch comedy. It could be topical takes, but all done in a comedic way. Like we have a real range, which is great because with comedy entertainment, any brand can work with any comedian, any funny person. And any funny person can work with any kind of brand, depending on obviously their limitations of brand, what they want to do. But that is us. There's obviously details in all of those, but I think that's a good summary of like why and also what we do.
Well, that's really interesting because looking at the kind of thing that the Gold Studios does, it looks like there is something different about the way you approach creator marketing. And that is, Element Human, we do a lot of measurement for agencies and brands around influencer content, creator content. But for the most part, the way I see it in my discussions with the agencies is they will have a brand reach out to them with a brief. They will then go and find the kind of right influencers to engage, to kind of connect that brand with the audience that they're looking to connect with, the relevant audience. And then usually the kind of creative idea comes afterwards. The creator gets a brief. They will then kind of figure out how they're going to work that elegantly into the kind of thing that they do and the kind of community that they've got. But it looks like what the Gold Studios does is different. You, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but you package up the creator and the idea, the format, you sort of devise it all together, and then you go to brands and you kind of sell it as a package. So the thinking about the brand integration starts a lot earlier. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, you've done your research, Hamish. I like it. So essentially, yeah, I think what I saw, and it starts like why we're doing it that way, is what we saw was, I've done quite a few deals in the last 3 or 4 years, and I realized that I think a lot of it was, I would say, more transactional in terms of we need X talent to do this. Who is it? And then just work with them, especially on YouTube. It just felt like the conversation was this: Chris, I want to work with a YouTube channel who has these stats and these analytics and this kind of top line, like what they do as a creative. And I need something to go out in, let's say, July, which is great. And we can provide that. But what was happening is the way things were priced and also what the brand were getting in results wasn't as the best it could be, because there was a lot of things missing. And like you said, nothing about creative was discussed. Obviously different channels have different series and formats, which I'll get onto. And I thought, why are we not discussing it in that way like they would do in TV and entertainment, where different formats and series would be sold differently because of how well they do in terms of reach, consistency, sparsity of views, engagement. So we really wanted to kind of challenge that and do it in a different way. And it worked really effectively to the point where we were able to, one, pre-sell YouTube integration slots with creative packaged up and a description, understanding of how it would incorporate into it. So the conversation became not, oh, let's work with this channel on that in June or July. It was more, let's work with this channel on this video slot on this date, and the video slot will be about this, and this is how the integration will be incorporated months and weeks in advance. So the brand had clarity, but also we then could deliver on what we kind of promised.
And do you think that clarity is what brands are looking for? Is it kind of this reassurance that this is a proven format, you've already got the data that tells you it's going to work?
Yeah, I think, as I said, one of the things I realized with the pricing and packaging of these integrations was, you look at a channel, and I think I really encourage more people and brands to do this. I've had conversations where I've challenged this and they've gone, oh, interesting, you're very right on this. What it was is, if you look at a channel and you look at the actual content, look at the viewership, and obviously the viewership might be up and down, it might be quite consistent. But if you were to look at the type of content they're doing, what content is it and what is the similarity between them? So for example, Tucker is one that, I think I've discussed with you before and with people. It's a good example because it's very clear. Is he has a topical take series and he has a Wednesday reaction series. It is very obvious when you look at his page. Topical Takes, which is his primetime show on a Saturday, every Saturday all across the year, does higher in viewership within the 30 days than the Wednesday Reacts, which happens every other Wednesday. And it makes no sense to package those with the same packaging. Then, they're two different things. The way I kind of sell it to people who maybe know old school entertainment is Love Island UK and Love Island Australia and Love Island US all do very differently in viewership. You wouldn't package advertising in the same way across those three different series across different markets, would you? So, and same for Taskmaster, has been sold across, 10 countries. You can't expect to price their advertising on those shows the same way you would for all of them, because they all do differently in different markets. Why do we pick different channels based on demographics, but not by consistency of viewership and series and viewership on series? So that means that I'm able to deliver promises when I come to a brand saying, we're looking for viewership of X. I can advise and say, okay, the creative maybe makes more sense for Reaction Wednesdays with Tucker, but viewership wise, to meet your expectations there, it'd be better to do the Saturday show. And this is the creative options, because people love options, we could do. So I'm guiding them more and not just going, work with this channel for this fee, which, by the way, that's how things were done, how I've seen. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I think there's an elevation of what we're doing, which only benefits a brand.
Got it. And YouTube is the key platform that you operate on. I saw some really interesting data come out last week. Nielsen released its media distributor gauge report, where it looks at share of TV viewing on TVs. And so it compares share of viewing across Netflix, Prime, and the other kind of major platforms. And actually, YouTube was number one. So people are spending more time watching YouTube on their TVs ahead of Disney, Netflix, and Prime in the US. But I was interested to see not only that, but that it has been on the rise. So for 3 consecutive months, the share of YouTube viewing has gone up. So it's clearly a really, really consequential platform for engagement. People don't just flick around on their TVs; they watch and sit on the couch and really kind of fully engage with content. Are you at all surprised that YouTube is so dominant on TV sets?
No, I think, we live in a world of now social media, interest media. Now it's also attention. Like it all underlines we have to be where the attention's going.
Yeah.
One of the examples I remember, I was at home once and like my parents were watching TV, or my mum was like, "I'm going to watch some TV," and she opened YouTube, and I was kind of like, "Well, that just proves the point, right?" Like, she thinks, this is a 50-odd-year-old woman. Like, she'd used to watch TV, and now she's saying TV is YouTube. Like, okay, interesting. And the amount of times people are watching not terrestrial TV but YouTube, like it's consistent. I think I even saw, it was like a few months ago, YouTube Shorts have been trying to push out YouTube Shorts heavily. They're on the process on it, and they're trying to work on it. But even at the same time, by pushing Shorts, they saw an increase of like 13% on long form consumption on YouTube. So even when they're pushing short form, they're still getting more increase in long form consumption. It's part of people's regular life, and people are watching, other creators for 10 minutes a week, every single week, tenfold, 10 years, 5 years, wherever it is.
Yeah. I do think that, we talk a lot about the attention economy, and with TikTok and Snap putting out kind of micro content that goes for 5 seconds, 6 seconds, really, really fast and quick and high volume. I think there's this tendency of the industry to think that humans only can handle tiny snippets of content, but I truly think if you sit back and look at podcasts, you look at long form content, people can and do engage in content. It may not be the same type of content. It might be content that either has a slower storyline or is a bit more educational and in depth, creates a longer story. But I do think there's tons of opportunity for longer form content such as YouTube offers.
And I think as well, there's an opportunity, especially for the brands. I think at the same time, there's an opportunity to measure that, which I know that's what you do. And I think, all the metrics that we see on views and things are great, but it's an interesting way of like, can we find out what the actual quality of that content is? Are people engaging it and reacting to it? And I do. Go on.
Let's get into that. I'd love to know, with measurement, what is it that brands are asking for? What do they look for right now that tells us or tells you that this was a successful campaign?
It's the classic usual, I call them vanity metrics. Like it's the views, it's the engagement, like rates if we can get them, story clicks, like link in bio clicks. I am in this interesting, I actually kind of funny conversation with someone from my team, Sammy, who just joined, and one of the things he challenged very heavily was like, Chris, like we're having link in bios for a brand or like a promotion code, like he was like, I want to know the stats. Like I want to know how well it did, because I want to see if we can help the brand, which is great. And I said, Sammy, I've been trying for years, and there's some brands who've been very great. We have a long-term relationship with, who actually have, and we've actually built long-term, like 1-year partnerships. But that did come from doing a few one-offs to learn how the brand works and our talent. But do we need, and I don't know how this is done, I'm still figuring out, but do we need to share more data on, did this partnership work? And can we see correlations of what other ones that did work or ones that didn't, and find out what we're doing right and wrong? Because if the brand understand what's working well in terms of purchases, using the promo code, link and clicks, how many people from link clicks then buy a product, these are things that I don't always know and love to know, because I can also suggest other talent that are similar to them in their audiences, and then we can obviously use them as another funnel for the brand to use. So it is missing. I think views and engagement rates are great, but I'd love to go in depth more, like, especially when we're trying to build YouTube channels for brands, which we're doing, is I would love to share with the YouTube channel brands saying, this is where we're seeing people feel emotion and smiling or that kind of stuff, because that means then we're tapping into them. And if they're positively engaged in our content, that obviously we're delivering entertainment, which Gen Z want. So yeah, there is a missing gap. I know you're trying to push on that as well, which is great. But I think for management people like myself who are representing talent, if the brands can work with us together to share that, I know it's tough, but that'd be very beneficial for better quality partnerships.
talking to a lot of agencies, big and small, I've sort of come around to this idea that agencies often start on a journey where they start very performance-based, right? So they've got a bit of tech. They're interested in, how many app downloads or conversions they can get. And as they start to grow, they start looking further afield and up the kind of brand journey. And so rather than going for brands that are really just looking for an instant reaction, they're starting to reach out to brands that are looking to build the brand equity over time. Are you seeing that as well in the kind of work that you do? And if you are seeing brands who are all about brand building, what are the success metrics they're looking for?
Yeah, I think the one thing we do look at, we've been doing more of, is getting engagement comments and looking at the comments and sharing them, because sometimes some of our talent that gave millions of views, and looking through those comments and identifying opportunities is just tough. So we sometimes do look at comments, and then when we're doing repeat work, which is where we're trying to build brand equity with our talent as well in an association, is we'll look at comments and engagement, maybe DMs have been said, and try and use that for when we're kind of pitching the new 6-month partnership, taking some of the feedback from the comments and what people love to see more of, and incorporating that into this deal structure with the creative. So there's that side. As I said, brands aren't showing us all the time, and I get it's tough, but they don't want to do that, and that's fine. But they don't show us exactly the results of it. As I said, the ones that I've had good relationships with, they've told me, how many orders have been done and what the percent, the numbers of that have been. And by the way, we have some partnerships where this month went up and it went down, and we sit down and discuss, okay, it went down because did the content change from July to June? Let's try and go back to what worked really well, and we see a jump again and we understand it. But that's really what I'm seeing in long-term partnerships. If it's one-offs, it's tough for me to kind of understand if it's worked well or not.
Got it. And you did mention earlier on some of those kind of quality metrics that you think are missing at the moment, right? A lot of it's very performance-based, views and clicks and engagements, vanity metrics, as you call it. What for those particularly the brand builders in your stable, what quality metrics that are out of or unattainable for you right now would you love to see to be able to bring back to your brands? And we've talked a little bit about Element Human's kind of measurement stack, which is measuring attention, how much attention is being shown, where is the attention fixation going, right? Are they looking at the product? Are they looking at the brand identity on the screen? You mentioned emotion, right? So are we actually engaging with the audience? Are we having spikes of happiness, sadness, or whatever is relevant? Brand memory. So, once we look at brand building, it's not about buying in the moment. It's now about remembering and having that mental availability for another day, which we think is really important of the stack. And then, of course, brand uplift, right? So are we driving awareness of the brand, consideration and purchase? For the kind of various metrics that are out there, what are the ones, those quality metrics that you think would be most interesting to the brands that you talk to?
I think I'm really interested to hear and see more about where people are seeing on screen, especially on long form. And the reason why is one of the things that we've been talking to more brands on and discussing is product placement on YouTube long form. And, I feel like, for example, even when we're talking to people who do comedy shows, they put their comedy sketches on shows onto YouTube. I do believe I've seen it already, and we've helped some brands do it where brand logos are placed within the content. It's one of the ways I'm trying to change the way brands advertise on YouTube. I haven't really talked about it with you before, but discussing logo bars you see in sports, we love sports, but we see logo bars. If I can prove to a brand that I see that an individual like Tucker, let's say, a lot of people's audience are always looking kind of in these areas, I can justify why we should be looking at brand wrapping and logo wrapping as well as integrations. That's one example. Or we always see things on YouTube where it's the drop-off mark, right? We have that data, which is great. I think it's important. But am I able to see where emotion is shown and maybe increase in happiness or people laugh and see those points in the show? Production would love to see where people are laughing, where they're not, and is there too much of a gap? Maybe we need to make sure we put some right jokes in to narrow it. These kind of things would be very interesting.
So the kind of tactical stuff to help you kind of see what's really happening in terms of the kind of consumer engagement. And
Yeah.
also that bit you mentioned about attention, I think is really interesting. You know, are people actually looking at those brand assets when they come on the screen? We've got a number of companies that produce kind of product placement and branded content, and they're really interested and sometimes a little scared to see, you know, are people actually noticing the thing that we put on the screen? Because there's always this balance that they're trying to strike between, we want the brand to be noticed, but we don't want to make it on the nose. So hitting that sweet spot's really tricky. You need the measurement to show if it's working.
For sure. So I think it's always in-depth stuff. I think, as I said, it's an elevation of what to provide, right? We have these things now. Like I said, the way we're selling YouTube integrations is done in one way. And then, you know, it was done in one way. We elevated that. It's about how can we report on ways of selling integrations on another level. Or when we're building a brand's YouTube channel, you know, which we're doing is like, what other reports can I provide and show that we're building engagement audience and its quality.
Quality all the way, mate. It's always the hardest thing to deliver, but it's so rewarding when you get a view on it. Awesome, Chris. I'd love to talk about the future. Yeah. So what I find really interesting about the fact that you are building content packages for brands and entertainment packages on YouTube, you're selling these packaged ideas is that YouTube is, as far as I consider it, the original creator platform. You know, I was around when YouTube first came out and remember just seeing the original creators sort of find their way through the YouTube kind of engagement matrix to find audiences. And we have, you know, lots of platforms out there these days and lots of different types of formats, but YouTube is the original. What is the future for you and for the Gold Studios and the kind of work you're doing? What's the next few years going to be looking like? What's blowing up? What are you focused on?
Great question. I mentioned a few times regarding the brand, like building YouTube channels for brands. I mentioned talent before. That's what we do, internal, external, but the brands have this opportunity of building their own entertainment YouTube channels / networks, I call them now. Imagine the BBC imagine us brands making their own version of the BBC and having different series of content on there. That is all entertaining. I said to you before this stat of Google did it where in 2022, I think a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and it was basically saying that Gen Z don't want to be sold to anymore and 80% rather be entertained than sold to. Massive. So let's make sure we're entertaining them. And of course, amazing glossy ads are really important. I think they have a place to be. But the fact that a brand can entertain people on a regular basis is vital. I said this regarding Tucker. People watch Tucker for 15 minutes every single Saturday for 1 year. And then you do that again, another year and another year. Like 10 minutes a week for a year is a lot of time. It's a lot of time. And imagine if a brand could do the same thing and have that touch point whilst also doing their amazing ads, whilst also doing other short form influencer marketing.
And that's brand building, right? Is the 100%. Frequent light touches to make sure that things are top of mind.
But has to be entertainment and not pushing product in front of you. So that's one of them. And I think that then leads into a whole thing about selling that as IP. I mentioned to you, I came back from New York in March, and I was on the plane on Virgin Atlantic, and I literally looked on it and Hot Ones was there. Like Hot Ones was a YouTube show. Like it was a YouTube show, still going. But that's not a traditional film or a TV series put onto BBC or Channel 4 or whatever it is. That was a YouTube show and the content is on there. Why can't the likes of a Nike, Adidas do it? Or On Running, I think should do it. Or Runner or Strava, Chipotle. Any of these brands can do it in a fun, entertainment way. Football clubs, like I've been chatting to football clubs about how they need to make it more entertainment, not just behind the scenes and press conference clips. Like there is a market for that. So that's one big thing. On top of that is the way integrations are done. I think integrations where it's a cut and it's integrated through is great. I do think there's a world though of taking, like I said to you, the history of old school advertising. We love sport. We see on Sky Sports, we have like, you know, the bar on the side with all the football, the league table and some stuff going on the bottom regarding scores. Why are we not doing something like that even in the US sports world where they have sponsored by Verizon or sponsored by Hyundai, and we have a logo placement on there which doesn't interrupt the content, but is located on there maybe for 60 seconds within a video or a couple times within a 15, 20-minute video. That's a new way of doing it. So I think that's one where brands over time will learn. That's what I'm going to Cannes, which we'll get onto in a second. But those are the big things. And then for us is selling these bigger package YouTube series. Like I've been selling series, 6-month series instead of just integrations of 3 months. I think that's going to happen more. It takes time, but I think that's where I see what we're doing and what we're kind of pushing for is kind of the main focus. But there's obviously intricate details into all of them. But those are the main things.
I love the difference between what I normally see in kind of influencer marketing and what you're doing, which is that you are bringing kind of proven, robust production formats into the world of creator marketing. That's the way I kind of look at it. And it's really exciting. And it's going to be fun to catch up in Cannes once again.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Cannes, so obviously very different to when we were there last year. I'm sure you have different priorities, but like what are the top things you're kind of focusing on for Cannes this year?
Okay. Yeah, so we had a quick chat about this ahead of time, and I've put together my top 3 things I'm looking for at Cannes. The first one I'm going to call the shift from reach to relevance. The way I look at it, there's sort of 2 things happening at once at the moment. The creator industry is increasingly sort of moving away from putting all their budget behind kind of one big influencer, and they're starting to kind of divide it up and target micro influencers who can offer kind of more relevant engagement. But at the same time, brands are also trying to do something else, which is they're trying to work directly with creators and build communities and kind of sustain and maintain those communities. And in my mind, these 2 things are really hard to do at the same time. Is it sustainable to do both? This year, one of our clients, Unilever, announced a massive jump in influencer investment. I think they said their kind of marketing spend, 30% of was going to go towards influencers. That was going to jump to 50%. They were going to 20x the quantity of the influencers they work with, and it was going to be very hyper localized. So they were going to have influencers in every city, in every country. Since announcing that, they've actually largely outsourced a lot of that work to agencies, and I'm probably sure that they would have loved to have done it in-house, but it's really, really difficult. So I'm very interested in Cannes is exploring how do brands balance the movement towards the micro-influencers and that kind of highly intimate, authentic engagement that they can offer, but also cope with the massive jump in time and effort that are required to make that work.
Yeah, just one thing to add on to add on that, Hamish. Funny enough, with Unilever, we just did a deal with someone who is based in Ireland, and not massive following. And literally, I can't remember the brand. It's probably Unilever Group, but not massive following. Really hyper focused in that world. Engaging content, has a funny enough bit of a series and a bit of characters, and like the budget for that was way more significant than it would have been last year. But it's interesting that you mentioned, obviously, they've hyper focused on these locations, and they were very, very specific on saying the reason why we're going to work with Kiva, her name is because she's based in Ireland. That's what we want to do. So it's happening. But you're right about the measurement, like how they're balancing that for sure. But I'm seeing that.
Yeah. I'm sure it's effective, but how do you sustain it, right?
Exactly. Okay.
Number 2, AI. It's a big topic. It's always going to be a massive topic this year and in the years to come. So number 2 for me will be AI, cannibalizer or collaborator. There's millions of discussion topics around AI, from the problems with AI's learning models starting to eat themselves, to the impacts on jobs. One thing I'm interested in exploring is how to achieve a balance of AI as a creative collaborator that actually is going to work for the industry. Having a chat to a friend over the weekend, he's a graphic designer. He's lost a chunk of his business, which is companies starting to use AI themselves for the quick branding jobs. We need a flyer, we needed this, we needed that, kind of all that kind of stuff. So I passed on my commiserations to my friend, and actually he said, "Oh, I don't care." He said, "That stuff is so boring, it's so repetitive, they can do it. AI can have it." He's much more interested in focusing on things that are truly creative. So really got me thinking, I want to explore this. Where is this line between AI as a collaborator and a cannibalizer, and finding that line? It's not going to be easy because it's really not under a lot of our control, but I'm very interested in what Cannes has got to say about that. And number 1, AI and the death of influencers. I don't think a lot of people are talking about this, but it's really starting to jump on my radar. When it comes to influencer marketing, I kind of think AI is like this nuclear bomb that is going off in slow motion. Influencers and creators work because they build communities and they create these genuine, intimate encounters with audiences. But AI is supercharging and commoditizing this whole thing. There's practices going on now where a company representing a creator is going to take their content and it's going to spin off thousands of variations of it, micro iterative variations. It's going to put them live to see how audiences react to them, and then sort of a form of multivariate analysis. It's going to then select the piece of content that have the most take with the audiences, and it's going to run with that. This is a problem for me because this is a complete commoditization of content. We're going to get flooded with repetitive, iterative content. It really makes me start to worry about the future of influencer marketing, which I think works when there's a human at the center of it, and when it's authentic and when it's genuine, and when it's creating those kind of genuine connections with people. Millions and millions and millions of slightly iterative versions of content flooding the zone, I think, is a real problem. So whether or not, I'm interested to see essentially if that is something we're going to be talking about at Cannes or not, because I think it's a big one and it's coming whether we're aware of it or whether we're going to just bash straight into it at some point. What do you think of that, Chris?
I think the AI thing's interesting. It's funny enough, I was like, I saw some post and it was, someone said, is this AI or not? And it was tough to tell. Like from a glimpse, yeah. Like it goes through and you're like, huh. And then you look in and go, actually, I can see. But yeah, I think there's an interesting world where I love to see where like AI influencers react with like everyday influencers, or like if we had, for example, I don't know, like one of our talent doing a YouTube channel and like their sidekick was an AI character. I think that would be really interesting. Like kind of like this, like instead of having another person involved in the show, we make an AI like companion they have, and that's part of the YouTube channel. I think that's quite interesting. I do think consumers are getting smarter consistently. And I think this is an interesting thing, actually, funny enough. Ari Emanuel, who owns Endeavor, who said something about like people are going to have more time because of like everything's more efficient with AI, which means that people are going to be more like, I want to be entertained. But I think when you say entertained, it's very easy to spit out loads of AI content. However, like people want to be like, I want connection. And I think that's when the whole community building happens. Like one of the things that we're doing a lot of is when we build a YouTube channel for a talent, if it at the right moment in time, because it's all about timing, is we start building their, not Patreon, but we use other different services where we build their community. And I think they are going to have a real focus where people have that one-on-one interaction. It's a smaller community. Yes, they maybe pay a certain fee, but it's tough then with the AI thing to beat that connection with someone. But at the same time, I think that's why now it's so vital for talent to build their YouTube and have longer content to get in engagement with. Same for a brand. Because if you build a community now, I think it's safer than you do later on when there's more AI influencers. But I mean, one thing is we embrace it all. We're always looking at kind of like ways to do it. Like, we're not going to commit to AI influencers yet because we're still unlearning that world. But when new technology comes in, a lot of people get scared about it. And, I think there's two ways. You're either scared and worried, or you embrace it and find ways to make it work. Like your friend, for example, who's probably going to say, you can give me all the leaflet work. I'll just get my AI team to do it, or the AI to do it. I'm going to focus on these bigger projects which need my thinking, creative, and my expertise in marketing and design. Like, that's great. He's just using it together. So that's, I think, the approach, and that's how I want to approach it. That's how a lot of people in our company will.
Let humans do what humans do best, which is be truly creative, I think. That's a great thought, Chris. And I really agree with your thinking there about as AI continues to kind of increase the content, the volume of content that's coming out there, I think so more will be the power of the human, right? The great creators, great personalities, the importance of authenticity, the importance of relevance. Humans can create that. Humans create human connections. I'm really looking forward to doing some AI testing myself to see if it can hang with real human content in creating real, true human engagement. It's going to be an interesting few years ahead of us, Chris, and I'm going to be excited to be meeting you in Cannes. Pack your sunscreen, grab a hat, and I'll be seeing you out there, my friend.
Yeah, no, I look forward to it. A lot of activations going on. I'm sure we'll be catching up with that but I'm looking forward to it for sure, dude. And we're very interested to see what happens after, and maybe reviewing it after, both of us, and seeing what we learned, what we saw, and maybe we think differently afterwards. You never know.
We can do a retrospective. Let's see if we can have our minds changed. Brilliant,
Yeah.
Chris. Pack yourself your killer suits, my man. I'm looking forward to
Amazing.
seeing you out there. I'm already fashion intimidated by you, but really appreciate you having on the show today, mate.
Thank you, man.
Getting packed, and we'll see you out there.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I appreciate it, dude.
Brilliant. Thanks all. Cheers. Bye.